Hello, friends, and welcome to Coach Cuts Corner. Streaming bright from Michigan's capital city, this podcast is dedicated to helping you better understand the who, the what, and the why of mental performance, personal growth, and Lansing Stars baseball. Coach Cuts Corner, brought to you by Eyewash.
In collaboration with Lansing Community College.
And now here's your host, Stephen Cutter.
Welcome back to Coach Cuts Corner. I'm Coach Cutter, and today I'm joined in studio with Coach Modaff and our new hitting coach, all the way from his most recent job in Arizona with Driveline. How we doing today, Elijay Boyer?
I'm doing pretty good. That was a nice intro right there.
Coach Mo, how we doing today?
Terrific.
Thanks for joining me in studio today, fellas. We're going to cover Elijah's journey here, some hitting philosophies of the Stars, backside ground balls, the development of hitters, and games starting for the Stars in a matter of days. So we'll jump right in. Elijah, you made a long track from Arizona to Michigan earlier, about what, a week, 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, just about.
So happy to have you on board.
Appreciate it.
Tell our listeners, what was the draw to Lansing?
Well, we at Driveline, we see a whole bunch of hitters come through the door, and there was a particular group of hitters, all from Lansing Community College, that came through, and I basically just could feel that the culture at this school was above and beyond, and as I'm learning now, uncommon. So I was really interested to see what was going on here, and I thought I could learn a lot and bring a lot to the table as well. So it started by the way the players held themselves the minute they walked through the door.
Right, and then you just kind of reached out and went from there. And
yeah.
How far of a drive was it? And it was quite an eventful drive for you, was it not?
Oh yeah, it was an exciting one. 30 hours over 4 days. Stopped to see some family and friends though. So
Nice.
Yeah, broke it up pretty nice.
Did you have and you had an incident at a Chili's?
Yeah, not a lot of fun.
Just
there.
bad food, or
I don't know, just a lot of energy drinks, not eating well on the road, and then just passed out.
All right. Well, like I said, we're happy to have you here. We're going to talk quite a bit about hitting today. Dive into not only what you think is important, but what we in general think is important, not only with, youth, high school, college kids. And, you brought up Driveline. We kind of started that with, we had two guys start that, Hunter Lay and Blake McRae started that process, and they went to Driveline in Seattle during the winter, correct? It was during the winter, Mo? Or
No, that was the summer.
So it was summer.
That was the summer, yep.
Yep, and they went to Driveline in summer. What'd you really think of that one once they went out there?
I thought it was cool. I think it was something we'd always talked about. Is that something that's feasible?
Yeah.
And especially coming from kind of a background in collegiate summer baseball, looking around and seeing how that's done. And there are some places that do it really well with development and games, but a lot of them have some blind spots, and we were able to see that and see maybe playing 50 games right after a 60 game season isn't the best way for someone to keep getting better and pushing the needle. And Driveline was just something that always lined up and met with our kind of thought processes on things, and we learned a lot from them, and it was awesome to have two of our better players head out there for a summer.
Right, and that started the process, and
Big time.
And yet here we are today with Coach Boyer being here.
Mm-hmm.
So, big hitter question coming: is there a difference between the softball swing and the baseball swing, Coach Boyer?
Not really.
Okay, why is that?
Well, everything in the swing basically works the same way. They just need to stay a little flatter if they're facing an opponent that has a rise ball, which in most cases is not the case.
Right.
Hitting the ball in the air and doing damage is going to play in both softball and baseball.
Right. Yeah. kind of common sense, but man, if you look on the internet, that was fought for a long time. I'm not sure how much it's fought anymore, but there was a lot of going back and forth about, a softball, an actual ball comes in at a different angle than what a baseball does, and if you look at the science behind that, what angle does a baseball come into?
Fastballs usually come in -6, -7 degrees.
Right. Yeah. So there's not a ton of differences. The outlier is the rise ball.
Yeah.
And not to get into a softball thing, but at least at the college level, the rise ball is thrown for a ball, but like 70-some% of the time. So just don't swing at it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what are some KPIs that when you were at Driveline, we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about prior to Driveline, but what are some KPIs that you were looking for as you've got a whole lot of people that you're working with, some remote, some on the floor, it's all over the place. What's that like, and how do you differentiate yourself and what Driveline's doing versus maybe Johnny's facility and Holt?
Yeah, there was always a lot in my mind, and we'll probably talk about it as we go through the podcast, but there was a lot in my mind about hitting, a lot of questions, a lot of wondering what made someone good. And one of the easiest ways I was able to go about helping hitters was to break it into, there's 3 things that makes a good hitter. You could look at it: bat speed, bat to ball skills, and then swing decisions. So bat speed, you could almost kind of think of it like power, if you want to think of it in simplistic terms. Bat speed is the first one, most important in my opinion, and with what data shows. But the bat to ball skills are more like your contact hitters, guys who, get on base all the time, don't strike out a lot, stuff like that. And then swing decisions also kind of applies to, just both. But if you have really bad in one of those 3 and really good in another, then it's easy to see what to work on for the hitter. Like guy walks through the door and he could put the bat on the ball all the time, and maybe he's just getting singles, getting lucky, running into some and getting doubles. It's pretty easy to see that guy's going to benefit a lot from just gaining bat speed.
But what if you don't have like the technology that we have and some of the bigger programs have? But what if you don't have that technology, and how do you know if your bat speed's good?
Can you see the exit velocity?
I don't know.
What can I see?
Right.
That's a great question. It's for the people out there that don't have all the things available to them. It becomes a little challenging, but
Coach Mo, what do you think would be the lowest hanging fruit for you to see bat speed?
Bat speed's tough without a blast sensor, I think.
But how much does that cost?
I mean, it's only $100.
Yeah. So that seems like pretty low hanging fruit
Big
if
time.
you were
Yeah.
interested in that.
Yeah, and you could have the whole team use one sensor.
Sure.
It wouldn't be ideal, but $100 and you could see your whole team's bat speed.
Right. But then understanding that, your bat speed might not be where it should be, then it's that whole knowledge of how do you improve it. And can you improve? Coach Mo, you think you can improve bat speed by doing it once a week?
No.
Coach Boyer?
It'd move a lot slower.
Yeah.
It'd be closer to no, but yeah, it'd move slower.
It'd take a long time, so there'd be
Yeah.
a cost at that for sure. We all played junior college ball, and we've talked about Coach Mo's a little bit. And Elijah, what was your story from high school to college?
Yeah. Starting it off in high school, no one in my family had played baseball really.
Okay.
Not even really, no. Like literally nobody played baseball. Nobody. We didn't have a batting cage in the backyard or nothing. I just, ever since a young age, it's funny actually, in middle school I didn't like baseball. That's when I first started playing. It was in middle school.
Is that because you weren't very good?
That was a little funny story behind it. When I was on T-ball, I forgot my hat, and I took a teammate's. I was just a young kid. I don't know.
Yeah.
Took a teammate's, and then the coach yelled at me. My mom got mad at the coach, and then it was like baseball. We just kind of stayed away from it ever since that. But hopped back in middle school, and was almost hitting 80 miles an hour. Had a really good arm.
Okay.
Mom says I would always throw things as a kid, and she was always impressed by how hard I threw them. So had a good arm. Found out that I was like really good at that sport, and just started falling in love with it from that point on, basically.
Mm-hmm. People
But-
gravitate towards things that they're good at.
That's common. And so then, we moved to Kansas. Didn't know a lot of people there. We moved there because my mom was finishing up becoming a doctor.
Okay.
And
Tornado Alley, or
no, we were in Overland Park, Kansas.
okay.
So there was actually a lot of good baseball. That's where Riley Pint was from. I got to face him and swing and miss 3 times
Okay.
in high school, so that was fun. But yeah, throughout high school, I did a few private lessons every once in a while. I really just had an old net that my travel team coach was going to throw away, and we put it in our basement. And I got a used sofa off Facebook, and I put it behind it so that I wouldn't tear down the garage door. And I couldn't even finish my swing because the ceiling was so low.
Gotcha.
And so I would just hit, 100 balls off the tee every morning, and that was my method of getting better in high school. And it didn't work too well because I was not good. But I worked pretty hard, so I ended up being all right for myself. Didn't really have direction in high school either. No one ever talked to me about the swing, nor did I even know what any of these things are we're talking about right now. So that's pretty much high school. I was grateful to have a chance to go play junior college ball at Pratt Community College in Pratt, Kansas, and
How far away from home was that?
that was about 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So just far enough to where we're so busy that I couldn't go home every weekend, but when I needed to, I could. But yeah, at junior college, we did not have a lot available. There was like 500 kids at the college when I was there, and still limited resources to see the kind of things that we're talking about right now. So a lot of it was trying not to strike out and trying to put the ball in play, things like that. And so throughout junior college, I'd say I got a lot stronger in the weight room, and started to mature more as a hitter, but still wasn't a ton of direction. And then I went to Arkansas Tech after that. So I spent 3 years total at junior college. My first year there, I redshirted.
Yep.
Then I go to Arkansas Tech, and that was the first time that I had actually really went all in on an approach and how to swing. And it was very much so, hands across the chest, swing down at the ball type of swing. And a lot of guys can think that and their swing be good. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that if it works.
Right.
But it sure doesn't work for every guy.
But that's not what's happening.
It's also not what's really happening most of the time. And so that was the approach I needed to be a guy who didn't really have a lot of power. But not to belabor that whole thought, but that was my journey. I played 3 years at Arkansas Tech, loved every second there. And we ended up winning a conference championship and having a lot of success my final year.
Does that year stand out because you won?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So winning's important?
Winning's very important.
Yeah, everything, right?
Yeah, at JUCO, I don't think we ever had a winning season.
Did that matter at that point, though?
It felt like it didn't.
Yeah, but it probably actually did.
Yeah.
But at the time, it probably didn't. What was the journey after college?
After college, I became an electrical engineer working at a nuclear power plant. So
Okay.
doing a little
Just
bit of that.
normal transition from baseball. Yep.
Yeah, that's. I always loved math and science, which is why driveline was so appealing for me to understand, and really started getting curious about the swing, and ran into a coworker at the nuclear plant. His name was Rich Ellison, and he said his son played baseball and that he would die for the game, and he wanted me to hit with him, and I was like, I don't really do lessons. And he's like, you got to see this kid. He loves to play. And from the moment I met Gabe to the day I left Arkansas, that kid put the passion in me for coaching, and I realized that I could be pretty good. At least I think I can be. And
anything's possible.
Yeah. So
Got to be willing to work for it.
so that drove the interest, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to go for the best in the business, best in the world, and I tried to go and get an internship with Driveline and started heading to Arizona before I even had the job. And I was just going to wheel it into existence, basically. I actually told Connor Watson, the lead hitting trainer in AZ, that if I didn't get the job, I would just pay them and hit and pretend like I was coming back to play so I could learn, because I just wanted to know what really made a swing work.
Right.
Luckily, I didn't have to do that. Got the internship, learned so much that I have never known. So I learned so much, and it was one of the best experiences I've had, and that is what got me here.
Do you find it challenging to flip between the facility setting to the team setting, because those are really two different worlds when you're working with people? Has that been challenging at all for you?
It's been a little challenging, but it's been a fast evolution, I guess you could say, because I love the team aspect, and that's why I didn't want to stay on the private side. I love the team aspect, so it was a challenge, but I was able to adapt pretty quickly.
We've got a lot of technology here, and how do you use something like K-Motion or K-Vest? How's that apply to what we're trying to do and chasing excellence here with the Stars? Basically,
the kinematic sequence, for those who don't know what that is, it's starting from the ground up with your pelvis, torso, lead arm, and then hand, which is basically the bat. And you're just trying to see how well a hitter generates speed up the chain. So K-Vest is a way that we can see that, and it's one of those low-hanging fruits that you could see it immediately. If you got a guy who, he hit 400 in high school with no home runs or something like that, and then you could see that he's just rotating really slow, you want to try to get him moving faster in the box. And the way you go about that with every hitter is completely different, and not every hitter thinks the same. And sometimes I don't even tell them what it is I'm trying to get them to do. I just tell them to do something that will achieve that, because I don't like to talk to hitters in all these technical terms, because most times it doesn't work well. Some guys it does, but there's just a lot of feel when you use technology to not overcomplicate the game. The game is still the game, and technology can just make it better when you have someone who understands it, and I feel like that's the way we use it here, so I enjoy that.
Right. Coach Mo, what was the two-strike approach that you were taught, say, at the junior college level? Do you remember?
Yeah, mine was spread out as far as you can with your load.
Okay.
So pretty much somebody that's vertically challenged, they still wanted me to get pretty much chalk line to chalk line. Stand on the chalk, so your elbows are hanging over the plate, choke up about 1.5 inches, and then just chop down at the ball and just bang it off the ground and run like heck.
That theory probably works pretty well at the youth levels when the fielding is a little suspect, and moving that ball in play is, probably helpful. Yeah. But as the levels go up and the players get better, it's,
and the values of each hitter change, where maybe somebody who is a 6'5" runner, sure, do that, and then he can beat them out. But somebody who is, a 7'5" runner, and their values in putting it over the fence if they get on first, I mean, how many hits or how many
is it going to take to get them around? Yeah.
Where's the value?
It's really, excellent point. Do you remember, Elijah, JUCO two-strike approach that you were taught?
I don't remember talking about it.
That's beautiful because I don't think in general that it's talked about very much at the younger levels. I think typically what's said is don't strike out.
Yeah, I think everyone understood striking out was bad.
Yeah. But as far as having approaches, and then sometimes you see blanket approaches being taught, where the whole team needs to do certain things, and then we're on the other side of that spectrum where we give them a lot of tools for two-strike approaches, and then find what works really best for them. And we're gonna be aware when we're striking out, too much, but then we're gonna continue to work on it and understand that, some guys might strike out a little bit more, but they're also gonna be hitting the ball over the fence occasionally. And I don't believe that needs to be that parallel, that just because you hit home runs, you need to strike out a lot, because people have proven that you don't need to do that. But two-strike approach is a pretty hot topic in the baseball community when people talk hitting, and you find a lot of it on social media, on Twitter and different things. What's your take today after being in a facility and training hitters? What's your take on a two-strike approach now?
Oh, so much goes through my mind. I love every hitter's process they have, and the great ones usually already have a two-strike approach. Mm-hmm. And I think a little bit of it goes into what Mo said about the value of the hitter. And I also agree with you in the fact that parallel is not always true, to where if they hit home runs, it's okay to strike out. I think the best thing I can say about two-strike hitting is it is a mentality that you are not going to get me out. Like I am the best, and I can handle whatever you have. And you really have to trust your swing. To answer your question directly, I don't have one approach. I've always thought if you're not on time for the fastball, it's going to be hard to catch up to it. So I'd sit fastball and I'd adjust other things and let guys run with that and see how that works. But for me, in two strikes, it's just so much about the mentality of just like you're in a junior college. You're not going to have a perfect strike zone. You're going to have to stick the bat out and foul off his best pitch. You have to keep fighting off their best pitch until you get yours.
Right. And also in that realm, there is that physical piece, the physical things you need to do, but there's also the psychological piece of it. And when you start thinking that you strike out too much, you start following that pattern, and that pattern starts repeating itself. And so that self-talk and that process that each player has when they're in the box that leads them to fight or flight is generated from them and that process. And you guys have probably all been in those situations where you're getting in the box. You can call it a slump, you can call it whatever you want, you can call it just a bad day, but you're getting in the box and you're not feeling like success is coming. And pretty soon, 2 pitches in, you're down 0-2, and you're like, here we go again, and that's that mindset. And kids, whether they're youth, high school, college, pro guys, they struggle with that at times, because it's not that they've, especially the pro guys, it's not that they've forgotten how to hit. It's literally they've forgotten what success looks like, and they're struggling with that stuff. Well, at the lower levels, that's one of the biggest things that I believe with two strikes is just that mentality of fighting. But we get a lot of, I'm not necessarily saying at Lansing, but I've seen a lot in the facility and at these levels where you get, instead of the fight, you get the flight. And it's because the belief system's just not there. Maybe it's for that day or that week or against this certain pitcher or against this certain team or, in this certain weather. I mean, I think about the things we've heard over the last couple years at the junior college level of excuses of why can't do this right now, and it's incredible. we're going to wrap up. I wanted to talk real quick. We're in our fall season right now. We got games coming up. Are you guys fired up to see the boys compete? They've been competing against each other in what we call intra-squads for at least a couple weeks now. But we've got real games coming up, or real scrimmages coming up, where they'll be wearing uniforms and the other team will be wearing a different color. So you guys fired up about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's always kind of a different experience. I think with inter squads, they're cool and they kind of scratch the itch a little bit, but I think it's a whole new ball game, and you kind of see a different level when somebody else is wearing a different jersey across from you.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited to see them go out there and play. I think we're going to be good, and I think we got a process, and we'll just keep trusting it.
We'll be all right. Trust the process. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Coach Cut's Corner is recorded live in the WLNZ studios. Engineering and production assistance are provided by Dedalian Lowry. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it and follow us on all the platforms of social media. You can find more about our program at lccstars.com, and donations to our baseball program can be made at the same site. See you next time.